Welcome to the Family Child Care Provider Perspective series. I am Stephanie Ayala Salinas, Project Manager of Town Square. Today you will hear from three providers that had to make the difficult decision to briefly close their program due to COVID-19.
My families were able to work from home because most of them are researchers. They're obviously professors and they have jobs that allow them to work from home. So they're privileged in that regard. And so at first we were, like kind of weighing that, right? I felt fine. I actually felt like I'm not giving up. I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm healthy. You know what I mean? And that's how I felt. There were people around me in at United Way and with the state who were like, Cindy, maybe you should close. I didn't want to hear it. Um, but we had one parent who actually was a nurse in ER. And when he provided us with like a narrative of everything that he was going to have to do in between leaving work and hugging his child, it was surreal. It was scary. Um, and that's when I began to say, okay, so maybe I better like reconsider. And so after several weeks, we ended up closing April 5th or 6th thereabouts, and we were closed through June 15th. We took it, very seriously, as most of our families did as well. We lost several families who felt that the daily disclosure that we crafted was too restrictive for their lifestyle because they wanted to be able to have dinner parties and go to dinner parties like normal. And in our daily disclosure, there is a provision that, we specifically ask that people are just with their immediate family unless there is some other, something else going on. And then we take it to the whole group. So there was that. Yeah, so we lost some families.
I provide care for educators' children. So we closed when school closed. My planning was that, yes, the children needed to be home with their families because at that point we did not, for safety, we did not know, a whole lot about what was going to come down the road. And they all agreed to that.
With us, this is what happened. In our school corporation, we have children ourselves, Karen and I, that go to our school corporation. So as parents, we received word that if there was a child that came down with the virus, one child, that they would close the entire school system down for 2 weeks. So we kind of knew that. So we talked to the parents and said, what would that look like for you? And they I think, and unanimously said, like, we wouldn't want our kids to come either if that happens. Again, I think people thought we would shut down for 2 weeks and people would get better, or they'd figure it out, because it's such something that's never happened to us before, right? So literally probably 2 days after we all received that information, the educators and the parents will say, I don't know what happened, but they skipped through those steps and they, just to be precautious, went ahead and decided March 13th, like, we're shutting the school system down for 2 weeks. So we at that point decided to completely shut the childcare down for 2 weeks because nobody wanted to come. I don't think I had one parent, because even I have a couple of parents that aren't educators, but they have a grandma or a sister that is, and they'll just keep our kids to be safe. Everybody was scared. So that was what happened in March. So in that 2-week period, then of course they decided not to reopen our school corporation as they did around the United States, right? And so we reached out to our clientele and said, what would be the best option? Should we reopen? No one wanted me to reopen. Now there's that question of, well, what about essential workers and people that have to go to work? I mean, but in our families, one person's an educator, and then I have a firefighter dad. One person's an educator and I have someone that's a doctor. But the thing is that someone was at home. So again, there wasn't really that need. So we shut down.
So I immediately put out a notice that I would appreciate a 50% continuing pay And they all agreed to that. Yeah, we still want you to continue to care for our kids. So unfortunately for us in Indiana, within 2 weeks of being closed, we came out with the OECASL, which is our Office of Early Childhood and Out of School Learning, used some of the CARE dollars that they had gotten from the federal government to provide a grant for those of us that were either, discounting our care, didn't have kids, or, for those of us that were on the QIRS system level 3 or 4.
So after the 2-week period, they were fine paying for the 2 weeks. And all of my families are teachers and they're all being paid. So there were no income lapse, right? So then for the teachers, when the rest of the school year was shut down, and when they found out, I don't think they knew for sure what was going to happen to them. When they found out they would continue to e-learn and be paid their salaries, then 99% of my families said, we'll just keep paying you. That's only fair. But I had a couple that got disgruntled, and I had 2 that pulled out because when they found out we weren't going to go back to school, there was no need for me and they didn't want to pay. And the thing is, they were very concerned that I would keep paying my staff. And it's in my contract, besides the actual word pandemic, it's in my contract that if for any reason the state comes in and the school system has to be shut down, that tuition will still have to be paid.
Okay, so that's a really, really great question. Obviously, we had to address that. What are we going to do about a holding fee? And in our contract, we had a holding fee provision, but what was it for? I don't even remember what it was for, because it was pre-COVID, right? So we had a holding fee for whatever. But with COVID, it was like, okay, what are we going to do? And the thing is I felt that even though we were going to have a tremendous loss of revenue, that since I didn't have something in place, that the only thing I could apply was the holding fee, which was only $50 a week. $50 a week for a holding fee. That was the only thing that was applicable. We had a short-term, what do they call it? If you're sick for a short period of time, we had a provision for that versus a longer illness. But my goodness, so yeah, our holding fee was only $50. So we had to, rethink that. And then we had to keep rethinking it as funding options opened up, some of which prohibited having a holding fee. So, there was all of that.
It used to be, we're a very open door policy here. We love the parents to come in, check out our bulletin boards, see all the stations we have laid out for the day, come and see, and everything's open where you can see in the whole building. It's a very open floor plan, right? So I was like, how am I going to do this new thing that we're doing, right? No parents in the building, taking the temperatures, washing their hands, health expectations, asking them 10 questions. So I have this health expectation sheet. Right. We only added a couple things, and it was like, if they're vomiting, they have to be out for 2 days instead of 1. Temperature, they're out for 2 days instead of 1. And that's a little more lenient than some places that are doing 3 days, yeah. But it's double what it used to be. And then my last one that I added was obviously COVID-19 symptoms, out for 10 days, doctor's note to return, all the normal stuff that you're seeing. So I had a Zoom meeting or a personal meeting with every single family. We have 22 families. And we went over that health expectation sheet and they signed it. And then I'm going to send it home every Friday as a reminder. I said, don't sign it and send it back, but that's your reminder, instead of stopping them at the door every morning and asking them. Mm-hmm. Because they're in a hurry, and that just makes people have to gather, right? So I'm like, let's just get them in and you guys go and don't huddle together. So that's my health expectation, the questions that you should ask before the kiddos come in. When the kiddos come in, Miss Karen and I are greeting them right at the front door. She takes her students to her class. I take my students to mine. And then our assistants help them wash their hands immediately. And they're not wearing their shoes in the building at all. They go right in their cubbies right at the front door when they come in. We have a cubby room, which is nice. They go right in and wash their hands, and we take their temperatures. And then I just told the parents, like, if they do have a temperature, I'm calling you and you're coming right back. And they know that,
Okay. Yeah. What is safe? And, I've read a lot, and we will follow the recommendations, some of the recommendations, I guess. We are taking temperatures. I told my parents, you've got to be honest with me as far as illness goes with your children, in your family. And that's really, the temperatures are the only thing. And like I said, with the Come Back Stronger grant, I was able to get, I bought tables because so we can physically distance the kiddos, because I'm all about closeness, and we served family dining style. We had 2 kids per little bench, and so I did get that, and I let the parents know we will be doing that distancing. And other than that, taking the temperatures, and I mean, you can do a physical screening on a child and know if they're not well or not, in the morning. So I let my families come in. I know some providers are meeting them outside and bringing them in, but my program, and as I always have had the word fam for the last, when I changed my name and got to the website and all that, I put family in my name, and that's the way I look at my business, as family childcare.
I'm thinking right now of a particular shelving unit that we have that has maybe five levels, 5 shelves, and the lower 3 are virtually empty. Right? We have, in terms of, I'll tell you about our environment, and we have our loose parts, right? We have all of these things that are now in plastic containers. They're in plastic containers, okay? And they're on a shelf where the children can see them. And they have to ask me, Miss Cindy, may I have the tree trunks? Miss Cindy, may I have the magnet tiles? Miss Cindy, may I have the so-and-so? So I'll take their cue, and whatever they ask for, it's in the mix, right? Now remember, since we are a family child care home, we don't have, and we choose not to have, individual classrooms. We are into the Montessori, like, mixed age group thing. We like that. And our staff, we're trained in understanding how to apply a particular lesson to make it appropriate for the mixed age group, for all of the different stages that are in that group. So we don't have to have a lot of differentiation in terms of space for the most part, unless, of course, our preschoolers are building something and it's appropriate for them to do so, but it's also appropriate for the 18-month-old to come over and knock it down. So in that case, we'll definitely, we'll put up the gate and we'll keep them a little separate. So our environment has changed in that things that were once just easily accessible to the children, now they have to ask for. At the end of the day or throughout the day, we're actually gathering most of those things, and we're washing and sanitizing those things, right? And getting them ready for the next day. And we do that every day, and we do that throughout the day, and that's definitely different. Other things, I mean, throughout the day, again, we're wiping down surfaces, toys that are, things that the children love. Like, we have an open-ended, kind of like a half hollowed out tree trunk that can be flipped over and used as a tunnel, or the other way, and they make a boat or whatever they're going to make, right? But I mean, we're constantly wiping that down.
Thank you for joining us. Town Square is always looking for new provider perspectives. If you would like to contribute, please email info@townsquarecentral.org and explore provider-created resources and trainings at townsquarecentral.org.